The heavy oak door of the antique wardrobe clicked shut, plunging me into a narrow cavern that smelled of cedar shavings, vintage wool, and decades of old lavender sachets. Just moments before, my 72-year-old estate manager, Evelyn, had gripped my arm with an icy, trembling intensity. I had never seen in her 20 years of service, whispering that my very life's work was about to be dismantled right outside in the gallery. I stood completely motionless among the cascading hemlines of winter overcoats, my heart hammering against my ribs as I adjusted to the darkness while wearing the sapphire necklace my late husband, Arthur, had gifted me for our final anniversary. Today was supposed to be a milestone of pure celebration, marks of triumph for my brilliant daughter, Vivian, who was scheduled to deliver the keynote address at the grand opening of the Apex Biomedical Institute in downtown Boston in less than an hour. Through the intentional gap Evelyn had left in the wardrobe hinges, the heavy front doors of the estate groaned open, followed by the distinctive, sharp click of high heels and the heavier, deliberate tread of a man's leather loafers. Vivian's voice floated down the corridor, stripped entirely of the warmth she usually carried, as she confidently assured her companion that I had already departed for the gala and that the house was completely empty. The man who answered her was Julian Vance, a high-profile corporate strategist whose polished charm had captivated Vivian over the last 14 months, though his predatory ambition had always made my instincts flare. He possessed the calculated, flawless appearance of a man accustomed to manipulating high-stakes boardrooms, and he spoke with an infuriating, smooth cadence that assumed total intellectual dominance over everyone in his presence. "The proprietary patent blueprints," Julian demanded, his voice echoing clearly through the floorboards as they stopped right outside my sanctuary. "Did you verify the exact digital vault where she keeps the master encryption keys?" Vivian replied with a chilling, detached efficiency, explaining that the documents were stored in the terminal within the library and that she had already bypassed the secondary security firewalls. A cold numbness flooded my veins as I leaned against the back panel of the wardrobe, listening to my own flesh and blood assist a stranger in dismantling the architectural foundation of the biotech empire Arthur and I had spent 3 decades building. Julian pressed further about a recent corporate restructuring clause I had discussed with our attorneys, emphasizing with icy precision that the amendment had to be neutralized before their upcoming autumn wedding in Newport. The legal amendment I had initiated was a standard protective firewall designed to ensure that our family's multi-million-dollar intellectual property remained independent of any marital property distributions. Julian, however, was explicitly hunting for a vulnerability, coldly calculating the financial drain of a prolonged corporate lawsuit and stating that he refused to waste his resources on endless litigation if the protections were already active. As I forced myself to swallow the rising tide of panic, the scent of the old coats wrapped around me like a ghostly embrace from Arthur, anchoring my shattered focus while the world fell apart outside. I could hear Julian's footsteps migrating toward the private study, but his progress was suddenly interrupted by Evelyn's voice, remarkably poised and pleasant, offering them refreshments from the tea cart to break their momentum. For 20 agonizing minutes, Evelyn brilliantly engaged Julian in an impromptu conversation about local real estate while Vivian silently sifted through the electronic archives in the adjacent room. When the estate finally fell silent and the heavy front doors closed behind them, Evelyn opened the wardrobe, her weathered hands gently adjusting my displaced necklace before handing me a dossier she had hidden under her apron. Sitting at the long mahogany dining table with the untouched tea between us, Evelyn systematically revealed the timeline of deception she had uncovered through meticulous observation over the past 3 months. She had first grown suspicious during a spring dinner when she overheard Julian counseling Vivian on navigating Massachusetts property laws regarding inherited corporate equity. Evelyn had later discovered a discarded legal notepad in the guest suite featuring the watermark of a notoriously aggressive corporate raider firm, which prompted her to conduct an independent investigation at the municipal archives. What she unearthed was a devastating pattern. Julian had previously liquidated the family assets of a prominent shipping heiress in Chicago through a series of forced corporate bankruptcies during a hidden prior marriage. Staring at the public records Evelyn had quietly compiled, the true weight of the betrayal crushed me, not because a con artist had targeted my wealth, but because my own daughter was actively participating in the scheme. I immediately canceled my attendance at the Institute Gala, contacted our lead corporate counsel, and spent the evening fortifying our legal defenses while Vivian believed I was suffering from a sudden migraine. By Monday morning, my legal team had successfully executed the corporate safeguards, effectively neutralizing any leverage Julian hoped to gain through the marriage and securing the empire for the future. On Thursday, I invited Vivian to the estate under the pretense of a quiet lunch, determined to handle the confrontation not with explosive rage, but with the unyielding clarity of a mother protecting her child from self-destruction. As we sat across from one another, surrounded by the bright summer flowers she had brought, I calmly laid out the newly signed corporate restructurings and pushed the dossier detailing Julian's financial history across the table. Vivian went entirely pale, her defensive posture evaporating into a heavy, profound silence as she looked at the undeniable evidence of the trap she had helped build around herself. "He told me you were using the company to dictate my life," Vivian whispered hoarsely, her tears finally breaking through the polished exterior as she realized how deeply she had been manipulated by Julian's calculated narratives. I assured her that my actions were never meant to punish her, but to preserve her true legacy from a predator, promising that my love for her remained absolute and completely independent of the choices she had to make next. 3 weeks later, the lavish Newport wedding was officially indefinitely postponed, and Vivian began the painful, necessary process of untangling her life from Julian's grasp. True loyalty does not announce itself with grand fanfare, it watches from the shadows, acts with quiet courage, and hands you the keys to survival when you least expect it. Please subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends and family. We create entertaining and inspiring stories for our viewers, and your support helps us continue making great content for you.